Chair, we're now live.
Thank you. A warm welcome to those attending and also those viewing on our YouTube channel. This meeting is a meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee. My name is Councillor Darren Davies and I'll be chairing this meeting. Details of the business to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are accessible on the YouTube channel underneath the broadcast. Please note that members of the committee shall be using tablets and laptops to view the agenda today. We're not expecting a fire drill, so if the fire alarm does go off, please follow officers to the fire exits and out of the building to the designated meeting point. Mobile devices for those in the room, please switch off any mobile devices before the meeting starts or put them on silent. Declaration of interest. Councillors, if you have a declaration of interest to make in relation to today's agenda, please ensure that you state whether it is pecuniary or non-pecuniary and give the reasons for this. For your interest, members need to declare do not need to declare any interest in any item on the agenda where they have already listed this on their register of interest. Furthermore, you do not have the need to declare any interest just because you're a ward councillor or because you are a governor. Residents' feedback forms for those watching via YouTube. If you are minded, you can complete one of our residents' feedback forms. These can be found in the information section underneath the YouTube video. These forms are intended to help us improve the way that we run our meetings. Attendees. Now I'll move on to invite to introduce the people that are here today. So we'll start on my right. Sorry,
that's all right. Good morning. My name is Mrs. Chantal McLeod. I'm the legal advisor for today's subcommittee.
Councillor Peter Smallwood, Vice Chairman of the committee.
Councillor Nelson West, a member of this committee.
Councillor Roy Chandel, Ward Councillor.
Ahmed, I'm the director of the company.
Mohammed Hassan, I'm the DPS of the premises.
Hi, I'm Nick Semper from the Licensing Guys. Nice to see you again.
Good morning. Chris Lucan from the Licensing Guys, appearing this morning as advocate on behalf of the clients.
Good morning. Lois King, Principal Licensing Officer.
Good morning. Liz Penny, Democratic Services Officer.
Thank you, and I'm Councillor Darren Davies, as already mentioned. So we'll move on to the first part, so introductions by the Regulatory Service or Licensing Officer.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. You will all have received the report bundle and the agenda and will be familiar with the application. This is a hearing to consider a contested application to vary the premises licence in respect of the Prince of Wales, Sahara City, 1 Harlington Road, Uxbridge, UB8 3HD. The application was submitted by NTAD Consultants Limited on behalf of Game Measure Limited. However, I should advise that the licensing guys were subsequently engaged to represent Game Measure Limited for this hearing. Representatives from Game Measure Limited are present today, along with the applicant's representative, Mr. Nick Semper, from the licensing guys. The submissions made by Mr. Semper and Game Measure Limited in support of the application have been included in the report bundle from appendices 6 to 8, which can be found from pages 63 onwards. The application was made and advertised in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003. The variation application seeks to extend the authorisation for the sale of alcohol, both on and off the premises, recorded music, both inside and outside the premises, regulated entertainment, to include the performance of dance, inside, and to now include outside the premises, late night refreshment, and to include 7 days a week for late night refreshment. The current hours for the licensable activities can be found in paragraph 3.2, which is on pages 4 and 5 of your report bundle. The proposed hours for licensable activities as part of the variation application can be found at paragraph 3.3 on page 5 of your report bundle. The proposed opening hours will be Sunday to Thursday from 10 a.m. until 00:30 hours, and Friday and Saturday from 1000 hours to 0130 hours. The conditions being offered by the applicant can be found in a separate operating schedule, which I've attached as Appendix 2 on page 37 of the report. Whilst the operating schedule submitted with the application includes a significant number of conditions from the current premises licence, which can be found on Appendix 3 on page 45 of the report, there were several omissions, mainly in relation to conditions designed to uphold the prevention of public nuisance licensing objective, and these have been highlighted for you in paragraph 3.6 on page 7 of the report. It should be noted that on the 26th of March 2025, the applicant's agent at the time advised by email that there was an error in the wording of 2 of the conditions in the operating schedule that had been submitted with the application in February 2025. And these have been highlighted for you in paragraph 3.7 on page 7 of the report, along with the advice that was given to the agent. So I just would like to confirm that the application before the committee this morning is the one submitted in February 2025, complete with the errors.
Okay, thank
we
you.
have, we have received 2 representations from interested parties, namely 2 ward councillors. One of the ward councillors, Councillor Chamdal, is here today. We also have received 1 representation in support of the application. And I would now like to invite the committee to determine this application, giving due consideration to the application and all submissions, both verbal and written. Thank you.
Thank you. Just before we move on, I got very keen, shall we say, today. I just need to get apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies?
No apologies today, Chair.
Do we have any declarations of interest in matters coming before this committee? No. I can confirm that all parts will be in Part 1, and there's been no matters advised urgent, in advance or urgent. Thank you. Right, we'll move on to the applicant. Yep.
Thank you. Good morning again. So I'm Chris Lucan from the Licensing Guys. We're here representing the applicant here in person today, being Game Measure Limited. So, contextually, the premises is a pub and Mediterranean restaurant with shisha smoking in the garden. They offer food entertainment and belly dancing as entertainment. As per the excellent officer's report, the hearing report itself is very detailed, as I suppose as it must be, with the first 3 pages full of timings. However, in essence, this application seeks to extend all licensable activities and the closing time by only an hour, and add outdoor live and recorded music and performances of dance to their offering until only 2300 hours. Therefore, on the grand scheme of licensing applications, this variation is comparatively modest in scope. So, why do they want these additional hours? Well, para 3.4 of the officer's report explains that the Red Line Hotel and Vine Inn already have similar hours, and understandably, they wish to remain competitive. In fact, the extra 30 minutes mean in practical terms that the footfall, well, I suppose we calls it erstwhile the street population, is actually effectively dispersed. A comprehensive and detailed operating schedule has been proposed at the time of the submission. It runs to some 41 conditions, and in my submission in its current guise it will ensure that the licensing objectives will be robustly promoted and that they'll not be undermined. There's no doubt there are issues with the management of these premises under the previous regime. However, these premises have operated in its current format under its new management for some 2 years. As you'll be aware, each application must be judged on its own merit and facts, and the significant merits of this application are that it's a quality application, correctly conditioned with specific, appropriate and proportionate control measures, thus minimising any potential that any licensing objective would be undermined. In this hearing, the burden is on the applicant, ourselves, to show that the proposed operation supported by the proposed operating schedule is capable of promoting the licensing objectives and won't undermine them. Any representatives opposing the application have the burden to show that these premises trading under the operating schedule before you will undermine the licensing objectives and demonstrate that with evidence pertinent to this proposed operation. In our submission, any subcommittee properly advised could only refuse this application if it's found on the evidence of the representatives to be not capable of presenting and promoting the licensing objectives. So you may ask yourselves, why do the representatives, also known as objectors, need to produce evidence? And that answer is found in para 9.43 of the section 182 guidance, which clearly states, and I quote verbatim, the authority's determination should be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate for the promotion of the licensing objectives, and proportionate to what it is intended to achieve. Significantly, there's not a shred of empirical evidence in this application before you whatsoever. There's absolutely no identified history of disorder, confirmed noise complaints, or indeed any other cause for concern, evidence involving these premises or this applicant or any other similar business operated by this applicant before you, and that's a self-evident and undeniable fact. So, let me walk you through who has, or rather in this case who's not, raised any representations or objection. The police, being the lead RA and source of expert evidence on all crime, disorder and ASB issues in Hillingdon, have raised no objection. Environmental Protection Team, who lead on public nuisance, has made no representation, as have Trading Standards or Children's Services, who are the lead agencies for the protection of children from harm. Public Health, the Planning, Environment and Highways departments have made no representations either. Therefore, as a panel, you cannot be insensitive that the principal authorities which lead on the specific licensing objectives raised in other representations have no concerns regarding this application. We're left then with the objections from the two councillors, which we'll take together. Firstly, Councillor Gohill states that despite there being no recorded incidents regarding these premises whatsoever, the local residents continue to raise concerns regarding late-night disorder and breaches of the current licence. The lead and expert agencies for all crime and disorder issues are the police, and para 2.1 of the statutory guidance clearly states that you should look to them as your main source of evidence and advice on such matters. With respect, it's not for others to stand in their shoes, and they've met with the applicant as part of this application process, and as we've heard, they raise no objections. Similarly, and throughout the submission, the councillor refers to historic matters dating back over 2 years. With respect, what went on historically under a previous regime is no matter for this hearing, as they're not parties to this proceedings and are simply not in the room. It's simply irrelevant to the application before you. We have provided the crime and ASB data for the location, which you'll find as a supplement in the bundle before you today. The official data clearly shows that there is but one incident recorded in the locality every fortnight, which is rather commendable. And the whole of Hillingdon is well below the average incidence compared to its comparators. Now, the council suspects that the current management might not be strictly adhering to the terms of its current licence. To that, we'd say that it's for the licensing authority to deal with breaches of licence conditions through its enforcement team. Licensing authority too have met with the applicant to discuss this application and raise no objection. The correct route for such enforcement is through a premises licence review, but this isn't a review hearing, but a variation application, and we're not in the correct forum to hear such matters, even if they were substantiated. The council urges you to mirror the hours of the Vine with regard to these premises. Well, my reading of it is that the licensing hours are just an hour over terminal. Save, furthermore, the Vine's permitted to go to 0200 hours on numerous other nights throughout the year, and then a further 12 occasions so long as they have informed the Metropolitan Police and Council 2 weeks beforehand. So beyond that, Harper, we haven't asked for any other additional contingency. Councillor Shundle is very focused in his submission. He mentions the noise of persons leaving, and consequently we've served on you our proposed dispersal policy to deal with this very issue. He mentions car parking in the surrounding area, but as we discussed in great detail when we last appeared before you, parking's not a matter for the licensing authority. It actually receives no mention whatsoever in the Licensing Act or the Section 182 statutory guidance. We've recorded a statement of truth from the very nearest neighbour, Jan Hopper, whose garden actually bounds the garden of the pub where this entertainment until 2300 hours is proposed. Jen explains that there's been a pub at this location for a century or more, and she has lived next to it for some 25 years. She speaks very highly of Kareem, the manager, and explains that the current management are a massive improvement on previous regimes, describing it as a good addition to the neighbourhood. She tells us that the inevitable noise is not excessive and causes her no nuisance, but suggests that perhaps the staff could manage the dispersal from the pub at closing time a little more proactively. Not a problem. Hence our submission of the dispersal policy, and with your authority, will become part of that premises licence. Committee, this hearing is for you to decide solely upon whether this variation, confined by the augmented attendant operating schedule, will undermine or promote the licensing objectives. In my submission, it's more than well conditioned with comprehensive conditions to ensure that that never happens. Were it ever to happen, then Parliament's already provided a mechanism to deal with any future problems, and that being a premises licence review provided by Section 51 of the Licensing Act 2003. Were you to vary this licence and problems ensue, then the mechanism to control them is self-evidently provided by the aforementioned Section 51 review process. Let me now talk briefly about fear and speculation. Councillors speculate that were this extra R granted, then they fear that problems might ensue. And there are two main reasons why fear and speculation are not admissible in these proceedings. Paragraph 9.43 of the Section 182 guidance clearly states, and I will quote, the authority's determination should be evidence-based. So fear and speculation on what might or might not potentially happen at some undisclosed time in the future or as a consequence of any action is clearly not evidence. Secondly, there was a ruling in the case of Daniel Thwaites plc versus Wirral Borough Magistrates Court. It was QBD on the 6th of May 2008. And the judgment of Black J indicates that your decision-making should be actuated, and again I quote, by proper and real evidence. There's no history of problems with licensable activity at these premises. Nothing before you from the lead responsible authorities who champion and lead on these particular licensing objectives, and the potential for any such issues is more than properly addressed in the proposed conditions. Lastly, as an aside, I point your advisor's attention to another QBD's decision in the High Court, being the judgment even, of Justice Higginbotham in Taylor versus Manchester City Council and TCG Bars 2012. Any additional conditions you might wish to hand down should go no wider than the subject matter of this variation before you, i.e. the additional hour of trading and the extension of regulated entertainment. I believe that puts conditions regarding ID scanners, despite the fact we actually have one, litter, parking and what have you, beyond the purview of this hearing. I'll rest now and deal with any other issues during the questioning and in summary. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Does anyone on the committee have any questions?
Yep. Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to go back over a comment that, and going quite quickly, I didn't quite take it down, about something about once every fortnight, and that was a good thing. Can you just go back over what you meant by in relation to antisocial behaviour?
I was referring to... Your pardon, yeah. No, I was referring in that case to the issue of crime disorder, to which we've served. I think you find it within the bundle. And there is, in fact, one incident recorded in the locality every fortnight. I did go on to make mention the whole of Hillingdon is well below the average incidence when compared to its comparators, which is quite laudable. But that is a substantially low...
Yeah, just to be clear, we're not saying one incident a fortnight is acceptable. No crime is acceptable. What we're saying is it's remarkably low compared to other basic command unit comparators.
MCF.
Can I move on to ask a question to the licence officer just on that? That's obviously the location of this establishment is quite. It's on its own, right? There's a few other establishments just up the road, but if it was like Uxbridge High Street or Ruislip Town Centre, there's lots of places. So where there's more places, you'd expect just more crime. Is it comparable to say where there is more standalone establishments, is once a fortnight high or low? Do you understand what I'm trying to get at here? I don't want to be comparing, with respect, that to Uxbridge Town Centre, because that would be a ridiculous comparison. I think,
Councillor, it's difficult for me to answer that question because I'm not the police and they would be better placed to be able to provide statistics and to make that kind of judgment, because our police licensing officers will be based in the whole of Hillingdon, so would be able to perhaps give you more information with regards to, is it comparable, is that low, is that high, depending on the number of premises that are present in a particular area. It would be remiss of me to stray into their territory and answer that question. Sorry.
Thank you, Lois, I understand.
Can I help just a little more, sir? If you look at this submission here, when crime data and ASB data is gathered, it is allocated to particular geolocations. So we found a geolocation which is opposite. It's in a cul-de-sac opposite to the pub. So for the last 6 months, we provided the full list of incidents that have happened at that particular location. The second part of that report, so in the middle we've got a breakdown of what's happening at that location. And in the second part of that report, we have crime in Hillingdon as a whole BCU to show that this is not a high crime borough. Okay, but it's the principal point of this document is to show that this location is comparatively free of incidents. And I think you can hear from Kareem on this, but I do not believe during his tenure the police or any of the responsible authorities have ever attended or had to do with anything from this particular premises either. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any further questions? I have one. May not be relevant, but I'm going to ask it. I believe at the last hearing you did have the police attend. Was that a TENS review?
Yes, so that was a TENS review, but it wasn't for an incident or anything like that.
No, but there was police. They did,
come to benchmark some conditions.
No, that's fine. Thank you. We'll move on to responsible authorities. We have no one here from police licensing. We have no one from ASB, and we have no one from the out of hours noise team. So we'll move on to other parties, which will be ward councillors. Councillor Chandal.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm here to represent the residents around these premises, and basically it's a case of a deja vu, I would say. The residents are not happy in terms of, I've knocked on all the doors and people are in. We've got a 60-40 split. So, and the main problems are that the nuisance that is caused by the late hours, especially during the week. There are families with children, they're disturbed. There are people with jobs who work nights, different shifts, they're disturbed, purely because there's no parking available in Harlington Road. And although, as quite rightly the representative of making points of law, this causes an issue because people are shutting their doors, closing their doors. That's a noise nuisance. Lights are blaring, music is blaring out loud. That's a noise nuisance. The lights are on, people's front rooms, bedrooms, they're woken up unless they've got blackout curtains. That's a nuisance. Now, the hours that are being suggested, although considerably reduced from quite absurd hours in the previous application, the weekday is still an issue. Now, neighbours which adjoin the premises, quite rightly, the representative, there are people who are saying it's not a nuisance, yet there are literally a few houses down who have the exact opposite opinion, and they've got small children. But what everybody does agree on, it's a lovely place, they serve great food, and they don't want to see it go. And likewise, I go there frequently, but the issue that we have here, these are the residents who live right by it, day in, day out. Now, do we feel that any change in the licensing hours is acceptable? It's a business, I understand. I run business myself. You need to earn a profit. But at what cost? We, here in Hillingdon, we always promote good businesses with good neighbours, and that's what we want. I think the hours are still excessive during the week. when you have small children going to school, getting disturbed. The weekends, speaking to residents, when you put the case to them that, listen, this is the weekend, it's still the issue about the collateral issues that are going to be. And in terms of evidence-based, I mean, the evidence is there. It's a tainted property. And we can go into that if it's extended opening hours, the last 2 years we hadn't had considerable issues because the hours have been what they are. And now we're going to increase them. You're going to get that kind of crowding, and how we know is because we've had it before. And that's where the deja vu does come in, which is unfortunate. Like we said, it is a good premises in terms of food and all the rest of it. So that's why I'm here to represent the residents. In terms of closing hours similar to other licensed premises, I'm not a fan of that because I like staggered hours, because obviously if you've got 3 pubs closing at the same time, you might have 400 people coming out and the noise nuisance is even greater. So I'm not a great fan of that, and nor are the residents. But like I said, it's a 60%, 40%. So that's my submission, Chairman.
Thank you. Panel members, do you have any questions for Councillor Chamdale?
Thank you, Councillor Chamdale, and thank you for coming in, bringing the views of your residents. Would your preferred answer from this be to keep it as it is? As I think that you've used the deja vu quote, I'll use it, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Is that kind of your message to the committee, that you'd prefer to see the opening hours remain as they are?
The objections of residents is that the hours are excessive and not required, and the rest is left up to the chairman and the committee to then decide what is best fit. I believe the week, on a personal point, I think the weekdays should not be increased. The weekends, because this still is a pub in virtually a private area. It's not Uxbridge town centre. It's not the West End. You know, what kind of clientele are you going to encourage to come and stay at these late hours? So be it. You know, that's for you guys to manage, and that's for the licensed authorities to put the appropriate conditions. For me, it's the simple things. As a normal citizen of here, if I'm in bed, having a fast asleep, and we're looking for a nice weekend, and then at 1:30 in the morning there's clunk, 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 noises, flying up this, and all the rest that associated with litter and bottles. You know, come on. I mean, that's the balance, and I think we've got to be sensible. You know, at the end of the day, you run your business, we do get that. Same day, you know, the residents, the kids need to sleep, and, you know, people need to work. Sorry for that, it's a roundabout way.
Councillor Chamdale, I have one, just clarification. You mentioned about loud music. Was that from the cars, or was that from the venue?
Thanks, Chair. That's a combination, because they are applying for dance outside at these late hours. At the moment, currently, obviously, it's not a licensable activity after 11 o'clock, so fine, we can't do anything about it. But it does become a licensable activity after the hours of 2300. So that's the issue, because at the moment, the music cuts down and it's all inside, I understand. With it outside, with the 50% open, with the smoking rigs, that music will blare out, and at a time when it's quiet on the roads, that noise will carry. I believe they have certain controls, acoustics and bass, and what the youngsters, I don't know, you banger, 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 and your head's bloody hurting in the morning. But so, pardon my French. The noise is a combination. The nuisance is from the noise when people are getting in, taxis and everything else. Along with we went up to number, well, I can't say the numbers, but the number house where he couldn't hear the noise at the weekends currently. But so it's a combination of both. Noise nuisance is from when people are leaving, and don't forget, 1:30 it shuts, or even half midnight in the week. 12:30 it shuts, they get out, they're outside their cars smoking, so that could be 1 o'clock in the morning, if not more. So, and then the noise that's emanated from the premise itself with, I don't know whether they've got a DJ dancers and everything else. So that's what the noise is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll move on to the discussion-led part of this subcommittee. So we'll open the floor to any questions from the subcommittee members. Do you have any? Yep. Councillor Nelson West.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, I just listened to Councillor Gohill's representation, saying that it's widely believed that residents of Hillingdon Ledford Road, they assume that the things are going wrong. Of course, that is only purely speculation. I assume I was going to ask her that, but...
Yeah, at this point it is, from my understanding, that would be Councillor Gohill's speculation, so that's where we're at on that. That is speculation at the moment.
Thank you.
Thank you. So we'll open this now to any other parties, if you'd like to make comment on anything that's been...
Is this our summary, sir?
No, so this is the discussion-led part, so we can ask any questions that you feel you need to at this stage.
No questions. No questions. Really, really good. But we'd like to answer that during our summary, okay?
So that will come up shortly.
Surely.
Yep. No? Okay, so now we'll go... Yep.
Sorry, in terms of, just know about the balance of who runs this business. How... just a little sort of residents are aware as well, in terms of, is the owner in any way, is he just going to manage it for profit, or how is it run? So, because in terms of, on the point of contact, should there be an issue, how is resolution going to take place? And I think that's a good one for the residents.
So I'll be the main point of contact. I think I'm there pretty much every day. All the neighbours know me. All the neighbouring neighbours know me. Any issues with the neighbours, I've got all the contact details. I stay in contact with them. I actually invite them over every month, and I speak to them, seeing if there's any issues. And yeah, so that's me.
Yeah, I always my office is just probably half a mile away, and I'm always available if there are any issues. But obviously, I'm an accountant, so this is my investment business, so I'm relying on my TPS to run the business. But if there are any issues, I'm available for that. I regularly visited the premises, probably alternative days, to see if there is any issues or anything. I had a regular meeting with my TPS as well.
Yeah, perfect. So we're going on to...
Sorry, Chairman, can I come back on that?
Give me 1 moment. Yeah. Right, so we're going to, if you'd like to do your summary discussion part now, if you'd like to put that forward, so answer anything that's been said or any questions.
When we summarise, we go last. Have you got any questions for the gentleman?
No, that's most clear.
Okay.
So we're going to go round and do the closing remarks and the summarising now. That's where I'm at. So if you want to summarise now, you can do.
But surely the other side...
Yeah, I wanted to see if you had any questions first.
No, I'm with it. Thank you.
Right, okay, so Councillor Small, do you have anything to add? Councillor Nelson West?
Sorry for Kareem, it's Jan Hopner. She seems to be the only one who's who's not making about noise and stuff. So she's not in any relationship, or nobody knows her. She doesn't work there. Doesn't know any of the staff. You know what I mean? That's all. I just want to clarify that she's totally independent. You know, witness, not defeating her that what she says is true. But thank you.
She's totally independent. She doesn't work there. No, to my knowledge, she actually works in a pub, the Red Lion. So.
Okay, Councillor Chamdal, do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Sorry, I'm just in the question stage. I asked if it's all right.
Sorry, yes, sorry.
Just the discussion, I mean, you guys will know, the discussion is the opportunity for you to obviously come out with what the reasons they are, and obviously the last part is you make submission. If there's anything else to add, this is to, I prefer both of you really, because you own the business, you work for the business. So have any tends been undertaken so you can sort of test the water to see if your extended hours would work and negate, should we say, anything the residents put forward?
Yeah, since our previous application, there's been 4 temporary events notice that have actually been submitted, and yeah, to my knowledge, there's no issues with that, no complaints that we receive.
Sorry, one moment. Actually, Councillor Chamdal, would you like to reply?
Thank you, Chair. In terms of, you say there's no complaints, did you actually go and visit the residents? Because the feedback we get is that there is noise complaints with the cars, with people blaring out, and because it's a one-off, it's almost saying, look, maybe it's a one-off, but it's not a regular thing in your schedule.
I keep an open book kind of relationship with all my neighbours. They know me on a personal matter. They've got my number. If there's any issues that happen, they'll contact me, and I keep it quite transparent with them. Okay. Councillor Smallwood.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted you to talk me through why we were submitted incorrect papers, how that came about, who made the error, what happened. Just talk me through that, because these are important things, and I think attention to detail is key.
That's with the previous.
Yeah, at this stage, that's with the previous
consultant. We've just been asked to come talk to this application today.
Yeah.
I don't know if the licensing officer can help you, because there must have been some conversation in the office about the changes.
So, as I explained in the report, I had an email from the previous agent advising of the error, but it came with, I think it was about 2 days left of the consultation. So the advice that was given to the agent was that we would restart the consultation, because to make that material change, it was about the patrons entering the premises and the use of the ID scanner, and also the hours of use of the external area, which obviously would be an impact on the prevention of nuisance licensing objective. So it was felt that in order to be fair and reasonable to everybody, that we would have to restart the consultation with those two changed conditions, to give all responsible authorities and interested parties the opportunity to consider whether that made any material change to how they felt about the application. The alternative was for the application to proceed as it is, and then for the applicant to come make another variation to change those two conditions, which would then be consulted on. And there was radio silence as far as that was concerned, so it was left that the application would proceed with 2 days left, and we are now here.
We picked that up. That's absolutely, as we understand it, and we picked it up at that juncture. Clearly, it wasn't ideal, but they have it.
Okay, so before we go on to closing remarks, do you have anything you'd like to, any comments you'd like to make to any submissions that have been made within the room?
No, sir, it's nothing we can't deal with in summary, because a lot of the issues raised are covered in dispersal and what.
Okay. Okay, so we'll now move on to closing remarks from each party. Lois, do you have anything?
Nothing from me, Chair.
No. Councillor Smallwood? Councillor Nelson West? Okay, I have nothing at this stage. Councillor Chamdal?
Just to say, Chair and Committee, I believe there's good arguments being made on both sides. I think a sensible outcome will be most welcome by the residents in terms of, especially during the weekdays. And I'll leave it in your capable hands. Thank you.
Thank you. And closing remarks from the applicant.
Okay, just to sum up, there was some talk of deja vu. We're talking about the evidence is this. I think it's the quote. It's a tainted property. Okay, the bricks and mortar of this premises commit no offences. It is the failure to uphold the licensing objectives, which is a personal failure, not a premises failure. Okay, so I'd just like to make that distinction, and again remind you that the applicants before you have committed no offences, and there is no evidence before you whatsoever that they have failed to promote the licensing objectives at all times. Okay, nice to talk to you about the neighbours. We went to the nearest neighbour that actually abuts this garden, and the noise seems to be coming from activities in the garden. The noise inside is ambient, background noise for the diners, okay, and it's not even TV noise. the TVs after 11 o'clock at night are set to be a glowing fire, kind of whatever that is, a running video. So we went, and we've even been there again this morning. The nearest neighbour we've spoken to, I don't know where these other neighbours are coming from, but directly across the road from the pub is a 20-foot high hedge of trees and shrubs, and you can hardly see the premises next door. It is the foliage is that thick. I'm not sure what light is getting through there, but clearly, or noise, but clearly if there are problems, you've got an environmental health and noise nuisance team that are the right people to channel those allegations into. Thank you, Councillor Chandler, for describing the premises so well. You don't want to see it go. It's a lovely place and you use it yourself. Thank you for your custom. And thank you also for the point that we tried poorly to make, I think, not me, poorly to make, about staggered leaving. If everybody has the same hours, everyone tips out at the same time, then you're going to have 3 times the street population, the footfall in the street. And that's why we think the additional hours on hours are sensible, and we have some support from that from the good councillor. There is some suggestion that this is still a pub. Yes, it is. It's been a pub for over 100 years, but it's primarily a restaurant. I think it is a 30 wet, 70 food split. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. So please don't think it's a Wetherspoons or a pub. It is primarily food. And Councillor Chandler has been extremely fair again, because he's pointed out that in the past these premises have tested these hours by the use of tens, resulting in 0 complaints before you. And that is a significant help that he's given us in pointing that out. So look, I'm going to paraphrase very, very briefly para 9.43. Your determination, Chair and panel, must be evidence-based, justified as being appropriate to the promotional licensing objectives, and any conditions imposed must be proportionate to what is intended to achieve. Although I'm saying them, those are word for word, para 9.43 to section 182 guidance. What is intended to be achieved here today, a comparatively modest extension of hours and entertainment, similar to what is available at other premises nearby. Now, there's been some talk about dispersal, okay? I kind of just point you to these bullets on the back of the dispersal policy. You can read them, but I'd actually like to read them into the record. Prior to and during closing, the SIA will gradually be reassigned to outside duties to maintain a strong presence outside the immediate vicinity of the premises and encourage customers to leave the premises in a swift and orderly manner. As the exit opens directly onto a main junction bordered by a public highway on both sides, the security staff will supervise that, and door supervisors will remain outside the premises until all patrons have left the immediate vicinity, which I think addresses most, if not all of it. Okay, I need to remind you and your responsible authorities, the licensing authority themselves, the lead for all licensing matters, the police, environmental health, children's. Nobody has, as a responsible authority, has any issues in what these gentlemen are proposing. There is no recorded history attributable to this operator. I accept everything in the past, don't question it at all. He's absolutely right to raise it, but it doesn't attach to them or the bricks and mortar. All that's an undeniable and self-evident fact, and as the gentleman, as the good councillor mentioned, you know, if there were, suspecting there may be problems because of what happened in the past, that is what it is. It is merely fear and speculation. So consequently, sir, I respectfully request that you do indeed grant the variation of the premises licence as applied for, supported by the comprehensive raft of conditions, 43 of them. You know, I think it's conditions 28 to 35 in the operating schedule put in by our predecessors. all deal with public nuisance already. 43 conditions. I'd be surprised if you've got a more condition licence actually in Hillingdon right now. And we've also added the dispersal policy, which addresses much, if not all, of what's been suggested might occur, and were that to occur, you've got your Section 51 powers under your reviews. So please grant the comparatively modest variation and any effective conditions that you believe are both appropriate and proportionate. Thank you very much indeed. Just got to ask my colleague, have I missed anything?
No, that's grand.
Lovely. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Right, thank you very much. So what we'll do, we'll move on to the deliberation part now. So we will finish up here. So the subcommittee will deliberate, and then we will post a decision on our YouTube channel. You are welcome to wait, but it could be some time, but it will be made live on YouTube as soon as the decision is done. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.